Hello, everyone, and welcome to Moonshot by TechCabal.
Ladun is GM at Filmone. What does Filmone do?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. Filmone is a full media entertainment company. We started out with film distribution and now are producers of content. So we're a film production and distribution company. And we do a lot of things in the media and entertainment space that also involves a lot of tech and the use of tech as well. So, yeah.
Thank you for explaining that. I think we'll just dive right into the issue, and that's really, what would you say is the overview of distribution in Nigeria, especially as relating to film? Like, what does film distribution look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, with film distribution, a lot of people think that is maybe not as standardized as it is, but film distribution is literally in the word. It's in the distribution word. It's getting film available to the people. Whether it's getting film available to the people, whether it's in cinema or it's on the streamers or it's in flight, so it's getting film readily available to the people, making it easy for them to access it, making them want to watch it, and making money through it. So that is film distribution.
So we have a predominantly tech audience here.
Yes.
What are the opportunities they are not seeing? Especially, when it comes to working with you at Filmone, what opportunities are they not seeing?
With tech, a lot of tech has been used in our business to simplify the way we do things. One of the things that we are most proud about, and is one thing that has made our industry as filmmakers or film distributors grow, is the transparency of numbers. So we used tech, I think it was about maybe 2.5 or 3 years ago, used the services of this company called ComScore, which reaches out to all the cinemas and their back end. And that's how people are able to see daily film numbers, weekly film numbers, do analysis on how it's performing. Another thing is, look, there's a lot of cinemas. Well, not a lot, but a few cinemas, and they have grown consistently over the past 5 years. So there hasn't been a year in the past 5 years where there hasn't been an increase in the number of cinemas. We still have issues in terms of whether it's some form of payment or in confirming the payments that are being made. There's also an angle with the cinema screens. So right now, what happens is the cinema screens in all major cinemas cost thousands of dollars, sometimes between $30,000 and $70,000. It would be nice to have somebody come with a solution that sort of solves it, maybe something cheaper or something more accessible, because at the end of the day, if it's cheaper and less expensive, then we will be able to have more cinemas quicker. So those are some opportunities just off the top of my head that I think that tech can definitely help solve.
How has the film industry evolved in itself over the last, say, 5 years, 10 years? What evolutions have you seen?
The first thing would be in the quality of the films. Again, we're not where we want to be in the quality of films and all that, but you can say we've made a marked improvement. And that is obvious with the international streamers that have come to set up shop and are coming to acquire content. A few of them are even commissioning content. That quality, because what people are doing is they're either self-trained or people are going abroad where these things are specialized and going to learn. What that means is you're bringing that knowledge here and then you're teaching people and it's multiplying. Entertainment, and especially Nollywood, it's not going anywhere. It's here to stay. People love it. People use it for escaping. People use it to just sort of show themselves. So that has made sure that it is now an industry where people can have full careers. And that is another evolution where before it would be, if you say, oh, I'm a scriptwriter, your mom can say you are what? But now, if you say, oh, I'm going to school to be a scriptwriter, they see like, oh, yeah, this is happening. This is a career that you can actually do. You're not just playing. So in terms of career, in terms of the quality of films, I would say that has evolved, and it really is the future,
So just tying that to film distribution, a lot of us were video club people. I had fun with video clubs, and randomly, I'm looking at where the industry is right now,
right,
and you being at the front seat of that. How has distribution in Nollywood evolved over the years?
Especially since COVID, which we can't run away from. I feel like we're going to be talking about this pandemic for like 10, 15 years to come. A lot of things changed. before the pandemic, it almost seemed as if you released the film, it had to be in cinemas for it to be anything. Post-COVID, we do have the big streamers, and I don't need to explain the Netflix, Prime Video, etc. But there's a whole network that people don't talk about, and it's places like YouTube. It's a whole network where people are producing their own film, filming their own films, distributing their own films on YouTube, doing their own finances, and making bank. So whilst I'm sitting here as a distributor saying that I can help you scale and do all of that, on some level, you can actually do it yourself. You can do it on YouTube. People are creating content on TikTok, creating series of different things. It birthed the advent of, before it was just you go to cinema and then you do SVOD. SVOD is subscription VOD, which is Netflix, Prime Video, or TVOD. Now people are coming into AVOD, which is the advertising part of it, and saying, okay, you can help me in structuring it, in scripting, in making sure that this is a content, but perhaps I can do the rest myself. And I think that that's very empowering. So distribution is left a place where people were sort of gatekeeping and saying, only me has access to this, and I have access to this, and you can never make anything if you don't go through me, to folks just doing it themselves and just distributors sort of advising, or even going to say, oh, can I get stake in that? Because I see that you're going somewhere. So I will fund X so that I can get 20 or 30% stake in that. So it's evolved that way, where it's no longer centralized. It's very, very decentralized, and it's very open.
Just on the evolution, right? There are things that happen with, especially if you're watching films in cinemas, there are things that happen where people feel like the distribution process isn't smooth enough.
Correct.
What are the things that we don't see that makes it harder for the process to be as efficient as it needs to be?
Yes, that's a good question. One thing that we probably see, but we don't rate it as a big problem, is the fact that to set up a cinema is probably one of the biggest risks that you can take. I'll do a few numbers. So January to September in cinema industry, 4.8 billion naira and 1.6 million people. Only 1.6 million admissions in 9 months in cinema. In Lagos alone, we're probably about 20 million. And the numbers I've given you is Nigeria. What it means is, when I'm looking at that number as a cinema owner that has taken the risk to invest 100, 200 million naira in a film, or like in a cinema, and a lot of it is probably loans, right? And if anyone here has ever taken a loan in Nigeria, okay, you understand what that means. What it means is that when they're putting films in cinema, it's not an emotional decision. It's a business decision. It's what will help me pay this back? What will help me keep the lights on? What will help me make sure my inverter doesn't go down on me? What will make sure that I can afford to service the screens that I have bought from India last month? And those are the things that make the decisions. But then it now becomes like they're being sabotaged when a screen show is cancelled or stuff like that. So that's things that people don't, no one sets up a 500 million naira cinema to not make profit. They're doing it as a business. They want to make money. They believe that entertainment is something that they want to put their quota in, but they do want to make some money and be able to turn over and pay their investors or pay their debt. So that's something that people, because we're such in a creative sector, and if you meet two Nollywood people, they're all very passionate. People are throwing everything at it because they're very passionate. But sometimes because of that passion, we don't recognize that other people are making decisions that maybe are not as passionate, and it's really just business.
Yeah. I mean, like, we'll just talk about cinema culture in a bit. But before then, I'm sure if we throw the question to the audience about the kind of films that they like, everybody's going to shout different kinds of films. From where you're sitting,
right,
how does audience preference translate? When you compare it between just online versus offline, how does that translate?
Let me get your question. How does it translate to what now?
How does it translate to numbers?
Ooh,
really?
Yeah. It's everything. So we do a quarterly poll in cinemas for us. And that's how that informs the sort of films that we get the license to distribute. That informs the sort of films that we say we want to invest in a film from our production arm or even our distribution arm, we want to stake in it. And those polls help with marketing. So you go to a cinema and you have those guys with iPads and they say, how did you hear about this film? Did you hear about the film? Did you just make your decision to watch the film based on something you saw in cinema? Did you see it online? And those things affect the marketing of the film. It accepts the film that we put on certain months. So there's certain months that you won't put certain films. So, for instance, on holidays, you can't put a sad film. You just can't. It will not make money. And I know because we tried it and we lost. So if you put a film that ends like, oh, people are sad and people were stolen, all of that, on a holiday, no one wants to see that. They want to see something happy. So it's stuff like that. So it helps it helps decide dating. It helps decide the sort of film that we book. It helps decide the sort of marketing that goes into it in terms of budget, in terms of the sort of marketing. Is it heavy on out of home? Is it heavy on digital and stuff like that? So we actually do quarterly polls to make sure that we get a pulse on our actual cinema goers.
What do you think about the state of cinema culture in Nigeria right now?
It's not where I Ladun wants it to be. But I mean, it's one of those things where it's growing, but it's not growing at the speed that we want it to grow at. And again, I'm going to reference COVID, and I know it's tired, but it's the truth. We did have a faster growth before COVID, and now we obviously came down, and everyone's like, oh, cinemas are dead. But then realizing in 2021, when we hit a high number, that, oh, it's actually coming up. So we're now sort of re-educating people and just encouraging them. And right now, I'm very happy with where it is, where if you want to make lifestyle decisions and say, oh, where do I want to go to this evening? I know that you want to go to this bar and this restaurant, but I know that in the top 4 places, cinema is one of them. So we've already, isn't it one of them? Like in the top 4 places? I'll just imagine everyone is saying yes. So for me, we've already scaled a hurdle, in fact, that it's already one of the lifestyle decisions that you make, at least top 5, and we just need to get it to a place where it's top 3, and then I'll be happy.
What does top 3 look like? What needs to happen? And not just for you as a distributor, what needs to happen in the ecosystem for us to get into top 3?
I think I really think it's tied to the quality of films and the sort of films that people want to see. If we tell our stories and position them, like there's something they say in film, is an event film. When it's an event film, people come out for event film. Like I see how people came out for Wakanda and people were dressing up and that wasn't even a Nigerian production, and even they were in town obviously for that, and they were even like, oh wow. So it's in the quality of a film, but we cannot sleep on marketing. You see people make decisions based on how this was positioned or this was marketing. Nigerians, we have FOMO. We don't want to miss out on anything. If you position it as something that you will be missing if you don't do this, then people will come. But that also comes at a very, very, very high cost that not many people can afford. Marketing is very, very expensive. So most people then do it for, oh, we'll pick 3 of the titles out of the 10 titles we're releasing this year to go heavy on. But what we need is a sort of investment that lets us do it on 7 out of the 10, as opposed to 3 out of the 10 titles that we're working on, because that way you get more conversions.
Where do the filmmakers come in this process?
That's it. That's it. In the marketing, in the positioning, and the sort of stories that they're telling.
Yeah.
There's a divide in filmmakers where some filmmakers tell stories that they want to tell, as opposed to the stories that audience wants to tell, and that is the passion meets ego meets business side. I'm not saying don't tell the stories that you want to tell. I'm saying let it be led by the audience. How are you using the information that you have available? Because a lot of research that we've done, we've published them. How are you using stuff like that to inform? You have a portfolio of film, so maybe half. And then maybe the rest, use the money you've made there to fund this, your pipe project that only you want to watch, or maybe 10 of you want to watch, But it's hard because film is such a, I tell you, you meet 2 filmmakers, 2 of them are extremely passionate. It's very, very hard to reach that divide where you're like, okay, this is what I want to hear, but this is what the audience wants to see, so I'm going to do what the audience wants. That is where it gets in. Do what the audience wants to hear.
All right. So we are taking some audience questions.
Yes.
Somebody has asked, Does Film One envision showing documentary films? Do you think your audience will accept this?
I think, and I'll be completely honest, documentary films in cinema, we haven't seen anyone sort of request for it. We haven't seen anyone sort of pine for it. But it doesn't mean that it shouldn't be done, because there are different ways that your content can be monetized. It can be a limited screening at certain sites for a certain number of weeks. So it won't be a wide release. But because documentary is coming on the back burner, it has to be the best documentary anyone has ever seen to get people in the room. And it has to be positioned. So that then means doing something expensive on a very risky project. So, but that's what it is. So that's the only way I can answer that question. Have people requested for it? 2%. But it doesn't mean that there's no market, because then we can do the limited screening and then position it to streamers. But it can be where I would take a mid-tier film. I can't take a mid-tier documentary. It's just too much of a risk.
All right, some people want to give you money.
Oh.
So they are asking, what's the best funding model for cinemas? Do you VC, angel investors? They literally wrote it here: debt financing or equity financing.
Come all, come one, come everything. But I mean, look, debt financing is always one of those things that is difficult because of the terrain that we're in. I said earlier, anyone that has ever taken a loan, it's one of those things. So I would say, I mean, the concept of a VC investment is obviously interesting, and it's definitely.
These are tech people. There's tech money. So
it's
answer
top
now
on
so that they give you tech money.
So in the pecking order, I will put tech, angel, and debt in that order.
All right. Do you think community cinemas are viable?
Absolutely. And it's one, absolutely, absolutely. I'll say it 3 times just so that you know that it's something that is personal for me, and it's something that I'm working with my team on achieving right now. We have partnered with another tech company called Artini, where we're working on getting screens that are less expensive in smaller halls where there are no cinemas. I think that is where, I am about 100% sure or 200% sure that is where the scale and the number of cinemas will come from. It's in community cinemas. It's getting to those cities where there are no cinemas, where you can get smaller screens or inexpensive screens to small halls, and then creating those cinemas. So absolutely.
Okay, so the upcoming filmmakers have asked me to ask you, what is the process for getting their films represented by Film One?
I mean, different ways. If it hasn't been shot and you already have a log line, or what's called info@filmone.ng, I always share that. We do read it. If it's an already shot film, again, info@filmone.ng, but don't send your film till you're asked to send it, just for legal reasons. But it's literally an email. Again, there are many people that sort of reach out to us on it. There's always a queue, but we always review all films that we get, and we would respond 2 to 4 weeks. On that.
So are there any government intervention? So literally, are there any government intervention for distribution companies?
No.
What exactly can the government do to help your government right now?
Help our taxes and reduce it. That's what we can start there. We can start with taxation. I
think you need to break it down, because people don't understand how taxation works for distribution.
Yes, we're heavily taxed, and this is not just distribution, this is exhibitors as well, cinemas, and it's part of the reason why there's 3 levels of taxes, which is VAT, there's withholding tax, and then there's entertainment tax. So imagine that you've done all this work, and even before the film owner gets the money, withholding tax is probably the least painful of it, because you use the 10% as tax credit, and you can use it to reduce your personal income tax, but or rather company tax. But VAT at 7.5, and then entertainment tax at 5%, and then it hits it right from the beginning. So without any distribution fee, without cinemas taking their share, without anything, that tax has hit it. And that also affects, if you think about places that have tax havens and stuff like that, even from a production point of view, if there was something that you could do for producers that would reduce either the tax element that they're paying, you would see that more international companies will be coming to produce here. And that creates more jobs, it creates more pizzazz in the ecosystem. So I would say to start there.
So earlier you mentioned just how streaming has, you touched on it, but I want you to expand just what streaming has done for the distribution process in Nigeria.
It's definitely helped. I know that at first, especially speaking with the cinema owners, there was concern that, oh, the fact that the streamers have come meant that people won't come to cinema. But I think that it's there's a whole process of it. And you can go to cinema and then still obviously play at the pay one window. What streamers have really, really done from filmmakers is obviously made the investments more viable, because where before you only had cinema and then had to go straight to pay TV or do some of the smaller platforms, now you have a good platform or good opportunity where after cinema you can still make money, and then it's in FX. Who says no to foreign currency? So again, that's definitely something that they've done. But one thing that I really, really like the advent of the streamers and why they've come is that it's created a new home for Nollywood. There are many people that before the streamers, wouldn't have gone to the cinemas to watch a Nollywood film. A lot of them now, because they already have, whether it's Netflix, Prime, Apple TV, or whatever it is, are now seeing the content on it, seeing that, okay, it's actually not as bad as maybe I thought it was. And then when they come to the cinema and they're making decisions, especially the impulse watchers, a Nollywood film or a couple Nollywood films are actually on the table for them to say, oh yeah, I would like to watch this because I saw this person on this one on Netflix, or I saw this producer on the one on Prime, so stuff like that. So it's definitely helped, and I think it's a welcome. More of them need to come.
So the tech bros want to know like how they can work with you.
Well, you can work with us from Tech Bros. So tech.
Okay, tech people.
Tech people. Yeah. I wanted to be sure which one. No, it's fine. I want to show which company. In terms of, I've talked about screens and what we can do in terms of screens and building community cinemas. I think that's definitely an opportunity there. But where it will be really big, it will be in terms of film investment. There's so much and there's so many amazing stories that have been put to maybe like a mini rest because we don't have the production budget to sort of fit this. But a lot of it, there's stories that need to be told. There's stories that will blow your mind. And when people complain about Nollywood, it really is a budget constraint, and people are doing what they can do according to the budgets that they have per time. So in terms of film budgets, in terms of helping with cinemas with the payment structures and how they can, there's more transparency, especially in that would help distributors, because it helps me to make sure that what you said you sold the tickets as is really what you're paying me. So stuff like that is what
Okay, so I think just last thing, what does the future look like for film distribution in Nigeria?
Film distribution in Nigeria, I think that there are going to be more streamers and more international organizations coming through. And we already have the feelers. We're already getting the emails. We're already getting the notifications that they're coming. And this is them coming for film production, them sort of invest. Because, we're everywhere. We're Nigerians. We're literally everywhere. When you say Nigerians in diaspora, I'm beginning to think that they're the same number of people in diaspora than they're in Nigeria as well. And these streaming platforms are taking notice of it. What they want to do is make sure that they're feeding the audience, which is our people in different countries as well as in Nigeria. So I see them coming in, which means that there's more opportunities for filmmakers in different spectrums, whether it's documentaries, whether it's short films, to play at. So it just gives us more opportunity. So it stops us. It means that there'll be less no's, because now we're being picky about what we're taking because we have guesstimated what they will take. So with more people coming in, with more investment opportunities, with more platforms, I would love to see an African platform say that they're the Netflix of Africa. So because that's our investment by our people and we understand it better. But I think that we're not very, very far from it. There are even French-speaking platforms, people reaching out saying, just French-speaking content, we will dub your content into French and we'll give it for our, there are more French-speaking countries in West Africa than they're English. So there's a market there that is largely untapped. So I think that the future is just more cinemas definitely opening in Nigeria, a lot more, and people are interested in that, starting with the community cinemas, and then more international funding coming, whether it's through grants or through these big organizations that are coming to set up shop here to acquire content.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Ladun.
Thank you.